Something is happening, not just above you, but within you. A subtle, invisible shift. You felt it. Waves of emotion that appear from nowhere. Moments of fatigue, disconnection, or dreams that seem more real than waking life. No, you're not losing your mind. You're responding to something ancient, something real. The sun, once seen as a simple source of heat, is far more than that. Ancient civilizations knew it. And now, even science begins to whisper the same truth. The sun is transmitting energy. Frequencies, patterns, codes, and your DNA, your very structure, is not just passive matter. It listens, it adapts, it evolves. This isn't a metaphor. It's a living cosmic upgrade. And it's already begun. Since the beginning of time, the sun has been revered, not simply as a source of warmth or light, but as a divine presence. In Egypt, it was Rhea, the eye of divine consciousness. In ancient Vedic texts, Surya was the soul of all living beings. The Mayans tracked solar alignments with celestial precision, believing each flare and eclipse to be part of a coded rhythm. But these weren't just stories. They were acknowledgments, intuitions of a deeper truth, that the sun is not just a star. It is a transmitter. Every solar flare, every pulse of radiation, every burst of magnetic force carries more than energy. It carries information. Modern science is only beginning to understand this. When a coronal mass ejection erupts from the solar surface, it sends a wave of charged particles across space. But it also alters the electromagnetic environment of Earth. It influences our weather, yes, but it also affects human biology, heart rate variability, brainwave activity, emotional states. Even decision-making patterns have been observed to shift during solar storms. Why? Because we are not separate from the field, we are immersed in it. The sun speaks in frequencies, and we are made of resonance. Ancient mystics believed that light was the first language, the voice of the divine. Light is not just illumination. It is structure. It is rhythm. Encoded in every photon is a pattern, a vibration that speaks directly to the subtle body. And beneath all our senses, our cells are listening. Your DNA is not just a string of genetic code. It is a tuning fork. And the sun is playing a song only your soul can hear. These are the solar codes. Not in words, but in pulses, waves, and sacred geometries embedded in light. They do not speak to the mind. They bypass logic. They activate memory. They awaken parts of you that have been dormant, not just since birth, but since before this incarnation. And when solar activity intensifies, these codes are broadcast more strongly. A global transmission, hidden in plain sight. You may not understand the language, but something inside you does. The codes you receive are not uniform. Each individual resonates with a different thread of the solar symphony. What stirs awakening in one may pass silently through another. This is why, in times of heightened solar activity, people report such a wide range of experiences, from ecstatic insight to emotional turbulence. These differences are not random. They reflect the unique configuration of your inner architecture, your energy centers, your karmic imprint, your evolutionary path. The solar transmission interacts with this inner map, much like sunlight passing through a prism. The light is one, but the expression becomes many. Across cultures and epochs, initiates trained themselves to become receptive to this celestial language. Temples were aligned with solstices and equinoxes, not for ritual alone, but to receive the solar current at specific points of resonance. The stone itself would act as a capacitor, grounding and concentrating the cosmic flow. Priests and priestesses would enter altered states of consciousness within these chambers, not by escaping the body, but by tuning it. In this light, spiritual practice is not escapism, it is synchronization, to breathe in rhythm with the solar pulse, to attune your awareness to the influx of information hidden in natural light, and to become a conscious participant in the dance between star and soul. What we are witnessing now on a planetary scale is the reopening of that transmission. Solar activity is increasing, not just in frequency, but in function. The codes arriving now are different. They are catalytic. They are designed to accelerate the recalibration of human consciousness. You may feel a sense of urgency, an unexplainable inner pressure. This is not anxiety. It is alignment trying to happen. A higher version of you trying to take form. This energy does not push. It invites. But it invites you fully to shed, to shift, to receive. In this moment, the sun is not just lighting the earth. It is illuminating what's been hidden within you. And in that revelation, the true language begins, not in words, but in transformation. Within your body lies a structure so familiar, it's almost overlooked. Yet so mysterious, we still haven't fully decoded it. DNA. To most, it's a static blueprint, a biological script written at birth and sealed for life. But this is a limited view, based on an outdated materialist lens. What ancient initiates intuited, and what modern science is only beginning to glimpse, is that DNA is not fixed. It's dynamic, responsive, and above all, tuned. DNA is not simply a container of heredity. It behaves like a living antenna. It receives, it responds, it transmits. At the quantum level, DNA emits and absorbs light in measurable pulses, what researchers call biophotons. These aren't just passive flashes. They act like signals, a subtle form of communication between cells, organs, and even consciousness itself. And just like a radio antenna can be tuned to specific frequencies, your DNA is sensitive to vibration, especially the vibration encoded in light. This is where the solar codes come into play. When solar radiation increases through flares, geomagnetic storms, or even subtle fluctuations in solar wind, it carries not just energy, but structured frequency. And because your DNA is attuned to these subtle fields, it begins to resonate. This isn't metaphor, it's mechanics. Experiments have shown that DNA can be altered by electromagnetic fields, coherent light, and even spoken words when charged with intent. Which means that solar transmissions don't just affect your emotions or energy levels. They can reach into the deepest structures of what makes you, you. But this responsiveness is not uniform. It depends on coherence. The more harmonized your internal state, physically, emotionally, energetically, the clearer the signal your DNA can receive. Just like a radio tuned to static can't make sense of the broadcast, an unbalanced system will distort the codes. This is why purification was always a core step in ancient initiations, not for moral reasons, but for frequency alignment. A clean vessel receives clean light. So when your body feels strange, when your sleep is disturbed, or your emotions rise and fall in unfamiliar patterns, it may not be dysfunction. It may be data, encoded in light, translated by your DNA and woven into your unfolding evolution. Your DNA is far more than physical matter. It exists simultaneously on multiple levels: molecular, energetic, and informational. This tri-layered nature allows it to function not just as a biological engine, but as a kind of bridge, linking the material world to subtler realms of vibration and intelligence. In the traditions of Egypt, Atlantis, and early mystery schools, it was understood that human beings once operated with more of this capacity online. 12 strands, not 2. Not in a geneticist's microscope, but in terms of energetic accessibility, fields of awareness that correspond to higher functions of consciousness. Today, only fragments of that multidimensional encoding remain consciously accessible, but that's beginning to change. When solar light enters the human system, it interacts with these dormant potentials. The incoming codes can begin to stimulate what might be called latent sequences, portions of the DNA that remain inactive until triggered by certain frequencies or experiences. This is not about becoming superhuman in the comic book sense. It is about remembering what the human blueprint truly holds. These activations often do not manifest instantly or dramatically. They unfold subtly through intuition sharpening, empathy deepening, or sudden ability to perceive patterns and connections where none existed before. It may feel like you're remembering knowledge you never consciously learned. That's because you are. Many of the shifts attributed to spiritual awakening are not psychological in origin. They are biological responses to information your system is finally able to decode. And this decoding is not just passive. It works both ways. Your thoughts, emotions, and intentions feed back into the field that surrounds your DNA. When you direct awareness consciously, through meditation, breath, prayer, or visualization, you begin to sculpt the signal your DNA receives and emits. This is where practice becomes transformation. By aligning with higher frequencies, not just in theory, but in your moment-to-moment choices, you fine-tune the antenna. You clear the static. You strengthen your capacity to hold and translate higher light. You stop living reactively, and you begin living receptively, attuned not just to the noise of the outer world, but to the cosmic intelligence whispering through your own cells. At the center of your brain lies a tiny, mysterious gland, no larger than a grain of rice. The ancients called it the seat of the soul. You know it as the pineal gland. Modern biology classifies it as part of the endocrine system, regulating sleep through melatonin. But this is only a fraction of its true role. For millennia, spiritual traditions have revered the pineal gland as a key to inner vision, multidimensional perception, and cosmic communion. In sacred architecture, its symbolism is everywhere. The eye of Horus, the pine cone of Dionysus, the crown spirals of deities, even the staff of the Pope. These weren't ornamental. They were signals, reminders of a forgotten technology within. The pineal gland is sensitive to light, not only through the eyes but directly through electromagnetic frequencies. It contains microscopic crystals, calcite structures, that generate piezoelectricity. In simple terms, they respond to pressure and light by producing electrical charge. This makes the pineal an organic transducer, converting subtle frequencies into electrical signals the brain can process. But more than that, the pineal acts as a gateway, a stargate, not in the sense of science fiction, but as a portal between dimensions of consciousness. When activated, it allows perception beyond linear time. It opens access to symbolic vision, intuitive knowing, and vibratory realms that exist just beyond the limits of the physical senses. Many report experiencing visions, downloads of information, or deep inner stillness during heightened pineal activity. And here's where the connection to the solar codes deepens. The pineal gland is particularly receptive to photonic input, light particles charged with frequency. During solar events, this sensitivity amplifies. The influx of solar light can stimulate the pineal to awaken, sending new signals through the neural pathways, activating latent circuits in the brain. This isn't about hallucination. It's about clarity, about perceiving with an expanded framework. You may have noticed sudden intuitive flashes, symbolic dreams, or a strong inner knowing without logical explanation. These are not anomalies. They are signs that your inner gateway is opening, responding to the increase in cosmic signal strength. But like any receiver, the pineal requires tuning. Tuning the pineal gland isn't achieved through force, but through refinement. Its activation is not a one-time event, but a gradual opening, a return to sensitivity. This sensitivity is dulled by the noise of modern life. Artificial lighting, digital saturation, chemical exposure, and stress all disrupt the subtle rhythms needed for the pineal to function as it was designed to. But beneath that static, the capacity remains intact. Ancient practices across continents spoke to this. Chanting, breathwork, fasting, periods of silence, darkness retreats. Each served to quiet the external senses and heighten the internal ones. This wasn't mysticism for its own sake. It was intentional calibration. The pineal gland is also deeply interconnected with the cerebrospinal fluid that flows along the spine and into the ventricles of the brain. When activated through breath and movement, especially slow, conscious diaphragmatic breathing, this fluid becomes electrically charged. It creates a wave that bathes the pineal in pulsating light and pressure. This pulse is like a key, gently unlocking the gate. Geomagnetic activity, such as solar storms, enhances this effect. The brain's pineal-centered regions have been shown to respond more actively during periods of geomagnetic fluctuation, which means solar activity can naturally stimulate altered states of consciousness in those who are sensitive or prepared. But sensitivity alone is not enough. Without direction, increased energy can lead to mental fragmentation, anxiety, or confusion. This is why discernment and intention are essential. The pineal is not simply a passive receiver. It is a two-way interface. Your focused thought, your meditative state, your capacity for stillness, these influence how the incoming frequencies are interpreted and integrated. Symbolic images, sudden clarity, inner vision. These are forms of translation, not fantasy. The solar codes reach the body through the DNA, but they reach the mind through the pineal. When these two interfaces, DNA and pineal, operate in harmony, a synthesis occurs. Not just insight, but embodiment. You begin to feel information as knowing. You begin to live resonance instead of chasing understanding. And with time, the barrier between seen and unseen begins to thin. You no longer rely on outer authority to tell you what is real. You become attuned to truth itself, directly, quietly, undeniably, within the temple of your own awareness. As solar activity increases and your inner systems begin to respond, the transformation doesn't remain theoretical. It becomes physical. It becomes emotional. It becomes real. These are not abstract concepts. They are experiences, often intense, disorienting, and difficult to explain. You may have noticed it already. Sudden waves of fatigue without clear cause. Sleep that becomes fragmented or unusually vivid. Sensory overload from environments that once felt neutral. Or emotions rising from nowhere, grief, joy, fear, wonder, crashing over you like tides with no visible moon. These aren't signs of dysfunction. They're signals of recalibration. When your system receives a new frequency, it must adjust. Old patterns, especially those stored in the nervous system and subconscious mind, begin to release. And that release doesn't always feel gentle. Stored emotions rise to the surface. Repressed memories, unprocessed pain, outdated beliefs, all begin to unravel, not to punish you, but to clear the space for something new to emerge. This is the body's natural intelligence at work. You are not malfunctioning. You are detoxifying energetically and emotionally. One of the most common signs of this is cognitive dissonance. Your inner knowing begins to contradict long-held assumptions. What once felt solid, your identity, your relationships, even your beliefs, suddenly feels unstable or unfamiliar. This can create an internal tension. Part of you wants to let go, while another part clings to what's familiar. This is the threshold, and it is sacred, because the rewriting process cannot simply layer new information on top of old programs. It must dissolve the foundation that no longer serves. That dissolution can feel like loss. But what is really leaving is distortion, noise that once kept the signal faint. Your body, mind, and energy field are shedding density. This can express as temporary inflammation, headaches, hormonal shifts, changes in appetite, or fluctuations in heart rhythm. Medical explanations may offer partial answers, but they often overlook the energetic origin. What you're experiencing is a multidimensional reset, and it doesn't follow a straight line. This reset moves in spirals, not steps. You may feel completely balanced one day and deeply ungrounded the next. Moments of peace may be followed by emotional intensity. This isn't failure, it's rhythm. The body processes energy cyclically through peaks and integration. When solar frequencies activate dormant aspects of your system, they often do so in waves. These waves bring what's hidden into light, allowing your awareness to interact with layers that have long been buried beneath habit or conditioning. One moment you're inspired, the next, exhausted. One day you feel clear, then fog returns. This fluctuation is normal. It's part of the integration curve. Your system learning how to hold more energy, more clarity, more truth. May also report a strange kind of inner dissonance, the mind attempting to explain experiences that feel beyond logic. This creates pressure, not from outside, but from within. Your inner world begins to stretch, to expand beyond its former edges. This is not meant to break you. It is meant to reorient you, to teach you how to live without needing everything to be defined by past frameworks. This can also affect your relationship with time. Linear awareness may begin to fragment. You might feel like time is speeding up, or moments seem to stretch unnaturally. You may forget what day it is, or feel disconnected from clocks and schedules. Again, this is not confusion. It is the loosening of artificial constructs your nervous system has outgrown. You are being asked to live from alignment, not obligation. And as the rewriting continues, your environment may begin to reflect your internal shift. Certain people may drift away. Old passions may lose their flavor. You may feel a calling to simplify, to relocate, or to step into stillness more often. This is because your frequency is changing. And as it changes, resonance reorganizes your external life to match it. The path of least resistance is not suppression, it's presence. To feel what arises, to allow the release, and to trust that something more coherent is taking form beneath the shedding. You are not being undone. You are being refined. This is the solar upgrade in motion, not a concept, but a living transformation unfolding through every part of you. Long before modern science spoke of plasma fields and photonic waves, ancient civilizations were already tracking the rhythms of the sun, not just to mark seasons, but to receive something sacred. From the megalithic stone circles of northern Europe to the pyramid complexes of Egypt and Mesoamerica, solar alignment was central to sacred architecture. These weren't simply primitive calendars. They were energetic instruments. Constructed with astonishing precision, they were positioned to interact with sunlight at exact moments of the year, solstices, equinoxes, and heliacal risings. Why? Because those moments weren't just symbolic. They were seen as portals, windows in time when the solar current reached Earth in a more concentrated, refined form. And through these portals, information flowed, not in books, not in words, but in frequency. The builders of these temples understood that light was alive, that the sun did not merely shine, it transmitted. And when that transmission struck sacred geometry, it resonated, producing vibrational effects that could influence the human energy field directly. The ancient Egyptians referred to the sun not only as Ra, the giver of life, but also as a vehicle for divine intelligence. Solar worship wasn't the adoration of a ball of fire. It was reverence for the intelligence behind it. Initiates trained in silence, meditation, and breath would position themselves within sunlit chambers, allowing the encoded light to activate their inner faculties. Similarly, in Mesoamerican cultures, the pyramid of Kukulkan at Chichen Itza was constructed so that during the equinox, The descending sunlight creates the illusion of a serpent slithering down the steps. This was not decorative. It was a visual manifestation of energy descending from the heavens, a symbol of transformation entering the earthly realm. Stonehenge, in England, aligns precisely with the midsummer sunrise. At that moment, light enters through a specific pathway and strikes a central altar. Many who've stood in that circle during solstice report altered states, deep stillness, or visions, suggesting the space holds more in symbolic importance. What links all of these cultures is a shared recognition. The sun's energy is not generic, it's intelligent. And when harnessed with precision, it becomes an initiatory force. These sacred sites weren't randomly placed. They were mapped with celestial exactness. Many are aligned not just to the sun's position at key times of year, but to specific star systems, magnetic ley lines, and underground water currents. Each element played a role in creating a resonant field, an environment where human consciousness could more easily shift, open, and receive. In these temples, initiates weren't seeking belief. They were cultivating resonance. By entering at specific times, when sunlight pierced the chamber just so, illuminating an altar or statue, they stepped into a field engineered for transformation. The light wasn't merely symbolic. It was part of a transmission. Encoded solar waves refracted through precise geometry would interact with the body's own energetic centers, particularly the heart and brain. The result was often described as direct knowing, insight that bypassed the rational mind and struck the core of the being. Some traditions referred to these solar activations as light baptisms or fire initiations. Not fire that burns flesh, but a higher fire, one that reorders internal structures without violence. It awakens by resonance, not force. Ancient texts of multiple cultures describe this phenomenon in similar terms: a feeling of being flooded with presence, visions of sacred symbols, the sudden release of emotional burdens, the perception of time dissolving. These are not imaginary. They are consistent responses to concentrated fields of coherent energy. And the sun, when aligned with specific structures and human intention, becomes a conductor for those fields. What's especially telling is that many of these sites were designed to interact with solar activity during specific cosmic windows, times when solar maximums were anticipated, or when certain constellations returned to prominence. This suggests a deep understanding of solar cycles, far beyond what is typically credited to ancient civilizations. Even without modern instruments, they track sunspot rhythms, solar winds, and their effects on crops, animals, and human temperament. But more than observation, they prepared for response. These cultures understood that heightened solar activity wasn't a threat. It was an opportunity, a chance to refine consciousness, to shed density, to receive higher instruction. Today, many of these sites still pulse with energy. Those sensitive to subtle fields can feel it, an invisible hum, a clarity in the air. And as solar activity increases again in our time, these ancient alignments begin to reawaken, not as relics of the past, but as living temples awaiting recognition. As solar transmissions continue to intensify, the question is no longer if they affect you, but how consciously you engage with them. While these frequencies reach everyone, your experience of them can vary drastically depending on how you prepare your body, mind, and field. The incoming codes are subtle, high-frequency waves. They require sensitivity, not effort. And like a musical instrument, your system must be tuned. Alignment begins with awareness. Many move through these shifts unconsciously, interpreting the symptoms as random stress or emotional imbalance. But when you recognize what's occurring, your relationship with the energy transforms. You move from reaction to collaboration. The first step is presence. This means returning to the body, not as a limitation, but as a compass. The body is the first to register energetic information. Tightness, restlessness, fluctuations in breath or temperature. These are often the earliest signs of interaction with new frequencies. Instead of resisting them, learn to observe without judgment. Stillness becomes the gateway. In this space of quiet noticing, you create coherence, a harmonic field in which the solar codes can land more clearly. The nervous system stabilizes, the mind slows, and in that stillness, deeper perception emerges. Breath is one of the most accessible tools to cultivate this state. Conscious, rhythmic breathing regulates heart rate variability and synchronizes brain wave patterns. Techniques such as 4-4-4 breathing help reset your electromagnetic field, making you more receptive to subtle input. Equally important is light itself, not artificial, but solar. Direct sunlight, absorbed through the eyes or skin during early morning or late afternoon, can stimulate biological rhythms, nourish mitochondrial function, and activate the pineal and pituitary glands. But this practice is not about tanning or exposure. It's about reverent communion, a moment of stillness where you meet the sun not just as heat, but as presence. You are not worshiping the light. You are recognizing yourself as part of its design. This alignment isn't ritual for ritual's sake. It's resonance by intention. You are learning to live in harmony with the intelligent current that animates all things. Beyond breath and light, sound also plays a vital role in aligning with solar codes. Not all sound heals, but certain frequencies, when consciously selected, can help attune your energy body to higher coherence. Tones such as 432 Hz, 528 Hz, and pure sine waves create vibrational structures that resonate with organic life. When used intentionally during meditation, journaling, or periods of integration, these frequencies help clear energetic noise. They don't carry the codes themselves. Rather, they prepare the internal terrain, making space for the subtle information to land and take root. Equally powerful is geometry. Sacred shapes such as the flower of life, Metatron's cube, and the golden spiral are not merely symbolic. They are energetic maps that help stabilize consciousness. By visualizing or meditating on these forms, you train the mind to recognize patterns that exist in higher frequencies. This visual alignment supports the translation of solar intelligence into inner clarity. Movement, too, plays a part. Not the compulsive kind driven by stress, but fluid, intentional movement. Stretching, yoga, spiral motion, or even slow walking in silence recalibrates the body's field and helps distribute energy evenly through the meridians and fascia. It ensures the codes don't become trapped or congested in localized areas where they might otherwise express as fatigue or agitation. Nutrition matters, not through dogma, but through discernment. During periods of heightened solar activity, many feel naturally drawn to lighter foods, fresh fruits, herbal teas, mineral-rich vegetables. This isn't a rule, but a response. The denser the energetic input, the more your body seeks simplicity to process it. But the most essential component of alignment is internal posture, your energetic stance. Are you resisting the changes? Or are you allowing them to pass through you, even when they dismantle old identities or attachments? Trust is not passive. It's an active surrender, a willingness to participate in the unknown, to release the illusion of control, and to welcome the intelligence that is far greater than the thinking mind. You don't align through effort. You align through honesty, through presence, through listening. The codes do not demand perfection. They ask only for readiness, a softening, a space within you that says, I am open to the language I once knew but forgot. When that space is made, alignment becomes effortless, and the transmission no longer feels foreign. It feels like home. Change is no longer gradual. It's exponential. We are not merely evolving technologically. We are undergoing a transformation of the human blueprint itself, a redefinition of what it means to be human. This isn't something happening far in the future. It's already unfolding, quietly but unmistakably, within those attuned to the solar frequencies now saturating our planet. The signals are subtle but profound. An increase in intuitive perception, the emergence of nonlinear thinking, sensitivity to emotional and energetic environments, a growing disinterest in competition, hierarchy, and domination, a spontaneous yearning for simplicity, authenticity, and connection. These aren't just psychological preferences. They're signs of neurological and energetic restructuring. Your brain, heart, and nervous system are reorganizing themselves around coherence rather than survival. Old patterns rooted in fear, fight, flight, and rigidity are being challenged by new inner signals that whisper of trust, flow, and interconnection. And as this shift deepens, your biology begins to follow suit. Cells operate differently under coherent frequency exposure. Water structures itself into crystalline lattice. Mitochondria, your cellular powerhouses, become more efficient in states of inner stillness and gratitude. Light-based communication within the body increases. In this light, evolution is not random mutation. It is intelligent adaptation to frequency. As solar transmissions increase in strength and complexity, they are initiating a leap, not through external pressure, but through inner resonance. They are activating dormant capacities that were once mythologized: telepathic sensitivity, vibrational empathy, innate knowing, nonverbal communication, quantum intuition. To the modern mind, this may sound fantastical, but to ancient cultures, it was normal. What we call spiritual gifts today were considered natural faculties in previous epochs, abilities humanity lost through disconnection and trauma, not through design. Now, those faculties are reawakening, not in everyone at once, but in waves, through individuals who are able to sustain a certain level of inner coherence despite the chaos around them. You may have felt this as a quiet inner pull, an urge to withdraw from noise, to question everything, to remember something undefined. This is not escapism, it's preparation. This preparation isn't about adding more information. It's about making space for a new operating system, one that isn't rooted in scarcity, reaction, or separation. You are not here to perfect the old self. You are here to shed it. The emerging human is not defined by external mastery, but by internal coherence. Not by dominance over the world, but by harmony with it. This new template values sensitivity as strength. Intuition is no longer dismissed as irrational, but understood as a faster, deeper intelligence that bridges logic and knowing. Compassion becomes instinctual, not idealistic. And creativity is no longer reserved for the arts. It becomes a primary way of navigating existence. As this shift progresses, you may notice yourself no longer resonating with structures that once felt necessary. The constant need to prove, the chase for validation, the metrics of worth tied to productivity and comparison. They begin to lose meaning, not because you're failing, but because you're recalibrating. Your nervous system starts craving environments that feel regenerative rather than reactive. People, places, and tasks that once drained you now feel unsustainable, not by choice, but by design. Your internal compass is rewiring. And in doing so, it's aligning you with the grid of a new human architecture. One that values stillness, one that listens before it speaks, one that seeks resonance, not reaction. This evolution is subtle, but unstoppable. It doesn't require belief. It responds to readiness. Those who resist may feel increasing tension, a pull toward the familiar, even as it collapses. But those who allow, who stay soft through the discomfort, begin to access a different kind of strength, one that doesn't come from defense, but from depth. The next stage of humanity will not be engineered. It will be remembered, unearthed from within by the very light that created us. And this is why the solar codes matter. Because they are not upgrades in the technical sense. They are reminders, signals encoded in light to awaken a species that has, for too long, lived in amnesia. You are not becoming more. You are returning to what you always were. And that remembrance, lived and embodied, is what defines the new human. Hidden beneath the surface of your transformation is a greater purpose, one that transcends personal growth or spiritual awakening. You are not just upgrading. You are remembering your role in something vast and ancient. Earth was once known in the cosmos as a living library, a planet encoded with the full spectrum of biological, emotional, and spiritual experience. A place where countless star lineages contributed their knowledge, not in books, but in life itself. Every tree, every mineral, every animal, every human carried a piece of the code. And humanity's role was unique. We were the conscious interpreters, the librarians, able to access, interact with, and evolve the information woven into the planetary grid. But that memory was lost. Through cycles of trauma, manipulation, and disconnection, the human species fell into forgetfulness. The light codes stored in our DNA went dormant. The knowledge in our cells became myth. And the library closed, not physically, but vibrationally. Now, the doors are unlocking again. The solar transmissions you're experiencing aren't only rewiring your body and mind. They're also activating Earth's energetic archives. Sacred sites across the globe, once dormant, are beginning to pulse again. Light grids buried beneath oceans, deserts, and mountains are stirring, as if reawakening after eons of sleep. These grids are not abstract. They are part of Earth's memory system, a crystalline network capable of storing, transmitting, and amplifying information. And when humans attune to higher frequencies, they re-established a lost connection between body and planet, between individual and collective memory. You become a living key, not just a receiver, but an activator. Your body, resonating with solar codes, becomes a tuning device for Earth's hidden knowledge. When you walk upon sacred land with presence, when you meditate with intention in places of power, when you align your inner field with gratitude and truth, you send a signal, and the grid responds. This isn't metaphor, it's harmonic interaction. Your frequency unlocking the codes buried in the earth. As more individuals begin to align with this frequency, holding coherence, embodying truth, a collective resonance begins to form. And with it, the library begins to breathe again. You are not accessing data the way machines do. You are feeling it. Truth doesn't arrive through logic alone. It moves through intuition, memory, sensation. It bypasses linear thought and speaks directly to the deep self. This is why so many are now drawn to forgotten symbols, ancient languages, sacred geometries. They are echoes of the original architecture, keys meant to stir remembrance. You may not know why you're pulled to a certain place, a certain sound, or a specific ritual, but your DNA knows. Your cells remember, and Earth responds. In this reciprocity, a new role begins to emerge. You are no longer just an individual walking through life. You become a conscious participant in planetary restoration. This is the return of the Keeper, those who walk lightly, listen deeply, and help reweave the broken threads between human and earth, light and form, memory and purpose. The living library is not simply a concept of the past. It is a reality of the present, returning through your awareness. And it is not confined to sacred sites. Every interaction can become an encoded exchange, a conversation held in presence, a song sung from the heart, a garden tended with reverence. These are living pages rewritten in real time. In this way, your life becomes an extension of the library itself, You carry the codes. You emit the frequency. You awaken what has been waiting, not just in the earth, but in others. For when enough individuals embody this living signal, something begins to shift. The atmosphere becomes charged with coherence. The grid strengthens. The veil thins. And what once seemed lost becomes visible again, not through memory, but through direct experience. This is not a return to the past. It is the future remembering its foundation. And the codex, the pattern of light that holds it all together, begins to reveal itself, not in one place, but everywhere. Through you, as you. You were never meant to remain asleep. The strange dreams, the waves of emotion, the inner pull towards something ancient, it's all part of your activation. You are not breaking down. You are remembering, and what you are becoming is not new. It is original. The solar transmissions aren't random. They are intelligent. And so are you. Each pulse of light, each inner shift, each moment of stillness, it's all refining your frequency, aligning you with the living blueprint once scattered, now returning. You are not alone. You are part of a greater emergence, a new human, a restored earth, a reawakened codex, and it begins now within you. If this transmission spoke to something deep inside you, leave a comment below. Tell us what you're experiencing, what's changing, what you're remembering. You may be surprised by how many others feel the same. Like, subscribe, and share this codex if you feel called. This is more than a video. It's a signal, one that activates as it's heard. And above all, stay aware, stay aligned, stay aligned. Your path is unfolding. We'll see you in the next transmission.